Yeah, thank you for staying with us on the conversation live on Lagos television. There was a question Bala put to each and every one of us before that break. That's, do we really know what we are up against, looking at the crisis rocking the Middle East and the war between Israel, Iran, and United States of America? The Middle East, like we all know, is the center point for oil production and supplies. And since the war started, oil production rather, and supplies had been affected, Nigeria inclusive, where we have had to pay more for the price of PMS. And this particular incident has made some people, stakeholders, to question if indeed as a country we have enough reserve in terms of oil to cushion the effect of the Middle East crisis. And of course, this morning the conversation is going to center on the price of crude oil, of course, oil production supplies, which has been affected because of this war, vis-a-vis what Nigeria should do in terms of oil reserve to cushion the effect of this war on Nigerians. We have joining us this morning, Comrade Bala Zakka is an oil and gas expert and a public affairs analyst. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
much.
And it's been a while.
It's been a while.
And I greet our viewers across the globe.
Okay, I know you're very passionate when it comes to oil and gas, and I think the proper way for us to start our conversation this morning is by having your view on what was raised by Aliko Dangote when he visited Mr. President on Monday. He raised alarm that with the way amount of things are going, Nigeria and Africa might run into crises, and is bothered as to how people are going to cope because of the effect of the war in the Middle East. What do you make of a statement? And are you afraid just like he is?
No, I'm not afraid at all. I'm only disappointed. I'm happy that Aliko Dangote said the truth, but I'm 100% disappointed. But I also have sympathy for the continent of Africa, because what is happening is a global concern that is going to affect the continent of Africa. But when you talk about global concerns and you talk about the continent of Africa, you now cascade down to your own family or your own country. In the context of Nigeria, anybody that says Nigeria is going to go into crisis is 100% correct. But if we refuse to contextualize it and we refuse to say where the problem lies, then we will continue to be the architects of our albatross. We will continue to help our leaders to lead us to a place I call economic and political Golgotha. And the answers are very simple. As we speak right now, I think the war started around probably the 28th of February or thereabout. You're talking about a maximum of 3 weeks now. Honestly, I stand to have a debate with anybody from the point of the lowest Nigerian to the level of OPEC when you're talking about crude oil. I stand to have a debate with anybody from the level of the smallest Nigerian to the level of gas exporting countries forum in Qatar. After all, even the person in charge there is a Nigerian, Mr. Philip Shelbila. I am saying this because in 3 weeks, or in a maximum of 3 weeks that this crisis started, Nigeria is not supposed to internally feel any shocks. And that is where I'm coming from. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying this is because ordinarily, as a country with our volume of crude oil reserve and gas reserve, we are supposed to technically have what you technically call strategic reserves. And when you have something you call strategic reserve, on no account should you even feel the shocks. Okay. What we are supposed to be concerned about will be other African countries and how things will happen to them. But even it is supposed to be a blessing in disguise for us, because those African countries that are supposed to go to other parts of the world to get refined petroleum product will start streaming and begging Nigeria to help them.
Okay. Comrade Zakka, according to Worldometer, Nigeria ordinarily should have 38,000 billion barrels as part of our oil reserves. And like you've mentioned, if truly we are we have that much,
Yes.
we shouldn't actually suffer
Correct.
as a country.
Correct.
Is that on paper, or is that reality? Is that what we have on ground at the moment? Because again, sometimes what you have on paper can differ
Correct.
from what you have
Correct.
technically. So because you are an industry player,
Yes.
so take us through, and then you also mentioned the strategic reserves. What exactly is strategic reserve? And if truly we should have 38 billion, that's huge.
Correct.
And so where are we
Okay.
as a nation?
Okay. Please, for the purpose of this, your very sound and intelligent question, I want to say something, and after now, I will suggest that we lock it inside our pockets.
Okay.
Yes, for the purpose of this discussion, because you asked a very fundamental and an intelligent question, and that is why Nigeria, if somebody says Nigeria is grossly mismanaged, I agree. I want to answer because you asked very intelligent question, and Nigerians should listen to this. I'm a chartered accountant, right? I'm a chartered accountant. Apart from being a chartered accountant, I'm a practicing petroleum engineer. I studied petroleum engineering from first degree to PhD level. So if I study to that extent,
You do
and
know
I've
what you're talking
traveled
about.
far and wide, I can tell you I know what I'm talking about. And I stand to have debate with anybody in the oil and gas industry. But after this discussion, please address me as Comrade Bala or Mr. Bala. That was why I said I was going to.
Not Dr. Bala.
No. Just Mr. Bala or Dr. Bala. But I want to clarify that. So I will talk to you from the point of knowledge. Nigeria is having that volume of crude oil that you described. And the crude oil that you described that Nigeria has in that huge volume is not only called a probable reserve, it is called a proved reserve. When you say a reserve is a proved reserve, you are technically saying that based on your existing technology and resources, you will be able to go to where that crude oil is, which we technically call the reservoir, and extract it to the surface. So you are 100% correct. And that simply means as far as crude oil is concerned, Nigeria has in abundance. Then when you talk about natural gas, which is fossil fuel that is a cleaner fossil fuel, Nigeria has more than 209 trillion standard cubic feet of proved reserve. When you say something is proved, that means that one is already there for you to take. But in terms of probable, that is the probability of the reserve of gas Nigeria has close to 600 trillion.
That is
standard cubic
possibly.
feet. Yes, that is the possibility. But the one that is guaranteed, God has guaranteed it, is there, you have seen it, you can take, is more than 200. So to that extent, let's just start from the gas aspect. If truly it is gas that you are supposed to use to drive gas turbines and generate electricity, are we supposed to say we don't have electricity today? Because even when you heard about the GENCOs, the WANCOs, and the TRICOs and whatever, they will say there is no enough gas.
Yeah.
So from the point of gas, are we supposed to say we have concerns? The answer is no. That means something is wrong with our managers, economic and political managers. From the same natural gas, you will get ammonia. From ammonia, you will get urea. From urea, you will get fertilizer. Go and ask any farmer today what farmers are going through in terms of fertilizer cost and fertilizer scarcity.
Right.
Are you supposed to come and meet me or meet you? It squarely lies and relies on the government. And anybody who wants to get it right, the first thing is to admit and tell yourself the truth. The truth is this: we are not being managed correctly. And who are those who are supposed to manage us? People will say every citizen, and I told you, is the leaders. Let me tell you how powerful leaders are. If a local government chairman or a state government, or let's say federal government, say tomorrow there will be public holiday, will anybody stop that?
Not at all.
If government says we want to block this road and carry out the construction, will anybody dare stop that? So that is how powerful leaders are. And leaders, by my definition, are fellow citizens like us. But the difference is this. We have collectively elected them or selected them and handed over our economic, political, and social destinies into their care in national interest. And if they are not doing it, we owe them the responsibility to pray for them to continue to survive and do well, but it is our duty to tell them the truth and, if possible, criticize them.
Bala, let me quickly follow up on Abimbola's question. There is somebody here who is as concerned as you are, Mr. Lekan Shote, and he wrote a piece on the need for strategic oil reserve in Nigeria. So I'm quoting a particular paragraph now. The increase in the price of petrol by Dangote Refinery aptly demonstrated Nigeria's lack of strategic petroleum and petroleum product reserves. If Nigeria had a strategic reserve, the government would have swiftly released it into the market. So do we have what we are saying?
No, the reserve is zero. And that is why it's a shame. Look, the problem, let me tell you why it is also good. You know, we were talking about technicalities, right? And I told you my exposure and qualification. But like I said, just for the purpose of this discussion, please let us understand one thing as Nigerians. Everything we discuss is known. Everything, the killings happening, the deprivation, the number of beggars are already known to the global community. Because you have foreigners, they have embassies, they have attaches, they move around and they mix with us. So the truth is known. Let me tell you, no country that is endowed with the kind of crude oil and gas that Nigeria has that does not have strategic reserve. That is one. Then no country that is endowed the way Nigeria is that does not have state-owned functional refineries. Anybody who says it is a lie, I stand to have debate with that person to the level of OPEC. Let us just talk about Nigeria. Because the good thing when I sit down with my brothers and sisters, like energy journalists like you, is first of all, let's tell us the truth. It's just like when you are a father, you are lying to your children, you are lying to your wife. Meanwhile, they know what is happening. You are an irresponsible father. A practical example, how can you be having 200 or over 200 million citizens relying on less than 10,000 megawatts of electricity? Do you need anybody to tell you that there will be energy crisis? You don't need anybody. How can you be having a population of more than 200 million citizens and you don't have one state functional refinery? Then the shameful part of it is this. Everybody is saying, and quote me that I stand to have a debate with anybody. Everybody, when it comes to agriculture, our government, you can't maintain agriculture. When it comes to health, you cannot maintain health. When it comes to education, you cannot do something about education. When it comes to security, you cannot do something about security. When it comes to oil and gas, you say privatize everybody. So everything. So if everything you cannot handle, that technically, based on my knowledge as a trained accountant and even my maturity to this level, that simply means even the monies that come to the federation account, you cannot be able to manage it.
All right.
Because you cannot be able to say, I can leave this, privatize this, sell this. But when the revenues come, you can handle that. I will answer your question directly now. That thing that person said is correct. And the question, if you give me the opportunity, we ask is this. Those refineries still exist. 4 moribund refineries. You go there now, you find somebody that has been recruited there probably 20 years ago. A young engineer or a young accountant or a HR person that has been recruited in one of those, I don't like mentioning names, in one of those 4 refineries 20 years ago, from probably a trainee engineer, that person is a chief engineer today. My question, if you give me the opportunity, I will ask you, probably you are the director of engineering or process. What have you been doing in the past 25 years since you were recruited? Now you are the chief engineer. And the function of that facility is to process refined petroleum products. How did you grow from the point of a trainee engineer or a trainee accountant or a trainee HR and you are now chief superintendent?
Well, are those refineries not outdated?
Never. Look, there is what we call Nelson Complexity Index. You know, I feel comfortable because I'm talking with energy journalists. How can refineries, how old are our refineries? As of 1965 or 1960, they didn't exist. And from 1960 to now, you're talking about 66 years. There are refineries that are more than 100 years old, and they are still working. So you see, these are the lies that people must be told. You see, what makes people respect parents? Well, my parents are late, but I wasn't respecting them because they were educated. After all, they were all illiterate. But I wasn't respecting my father because he was an illiterate, or my mother. It was because they were telling you the truth.
Right.
When they tell you the truth, you believe them and you pray for them. But in the context of what is happening in Nigeria, you see propagandists. You see fake information merchants. Nigeria is going towards the right, and they will be telling you that Nigeria is going straight. You see Nigeria going into the lagoon, and somebody is telling you you are on the way to Kara, which is a lie.
All right, Comrade, let's look at the current oil prices, because I know when we started this conversation,
yes,
you used the word disappointed.
Correct.
I'm going to take you back to why that word had to come out, disappointed. And of course, that came from Jibala's question when he was asking you about Aliko Dangote.
Correct.
We know that Aliko Dangote at the moment is one of the industry biggest player.
Correct.
Because majority of Nigerians depend on oil from the local refinery. And we do know that he also depends on the country for the supply of crude.
Correct.
Which the country is not even meeting up. Correct. At the moment.
Correct.
So when we look at daily global oil prices, which Nigeria also depends on greatly,
correct,
how then do we make an ordinary Nigerian understand that this is not, strategically because of Aliko Dangote and his refinery, but because of what the global oil prices is pushing to the country and the facts that our local refineries are not working optimally. So we are dilly-dallying between that refinery and what we're still importing. Correct. As a country. And so Nigerians would like to know, why is there no certainty that where we are at the moment is probably not the last price we will be buying?
Yes.
Because they feel, okay, we are producing, after all, Dangote is producing. And then, of course, some marketers are still importing. But why is there no certainty as to how much we will continue to buy fuel at the moment, because we know that this war, the last has definitely not been heard.
Correct.
About this war. So if you like to break it down.
I will break it down very well. Let's go.
Why is there so much uncertainty as to the pump price of fuel?
I like talking in a very elementary manner, because a lot of Nigerians are very intelligent. Nearly all the Nigerians, it's only the leaders that are looking as if something is wrong with them. The answer is very simple. It's just like when you have somebody producing pure water, right? And you have somebody producing bottled water, and you have somebody producing water in his well and is selling in cups. You are supposed to go and approach your government that is supposed to provide water in taps going to homes. The biggest mistake you will make is to continue to look at that person producing pure water or bottled water and be trying to blame him. That person, we call them individual, apart from individual, you call them corporate citizens. That person producing that pure water does not owe you anything. That person owes his customers. So if you are one of his or her customers, fine and good. The person that owes you provision of water is the government. So back to this, our discussion. When you talk about the global crude oil market, what we should be bothered about is the quantity of crude oil that we are supposed to produce to sell as a member of OPEC. That is the one, whether it goes through the Strait of Hormuz or not, that one you bother about that to generate revenue. But most of the time, from the principle of charity begins at home, you should be able to feed yourself. Okay. So the crude oil we should be bothered about is, first of all, what quantity of crude oil do we produce to feed ourselves? If you are not feeding yourself sufficiently, you cannot even have the right to talk. Let me say something about Dangote. Honestly, with due respect, the biggest mistake Nigerians are making, including me, probably is in the morning when going to toilet, you pray for Dangote. In the afternoon, you are praying for Dangote. In the evening, you pray for Dangote. Dangote does not owe you anything.
He's a businessman.
The way you have that tomato seller, you have that person producing juice, you have that person producing water. That is the way Dangote is. The only thing Dangote has is because he is a company, he can employ workers. The only thing Dangote does is also he needs to pay what we call taxes and levies. But Dangote is an individual. Your government is the one that is supposed to provide goods and services. That is the function of government. Yeah. Dangote is a private investment. First of all, Dangote does not owe Nigeria anything. If for any reason we are patronizing Dangote and we are happy, let us just be grateful. Dangote can decide not to sell to you. But why I sympathize with a Dangote and the equivalent of the Dangotes, maybe smaller one, is, first of all, you have forgotten that Dangote borrowed that money. Were you there when Dangote borrowed the money? You don't know the conditions. You don't know the conditions. That is one. Dangote is likely to have shareholders. Right. Do you know that Dangote is supposed to pay his shareholders their dividends? So these are the things we need to understand. The person that owes us provision of goods and services should be the government. And let me tell you how government works in an organized system. One thing about the government is this: whether you voted for them, you didn't vote for them, whether you have thieves in a community or armed robbers or prostitutes or preachers, it is the duty of government to go there and provide roads. It is the duty of government to go there and provide hospitals and schools. But if the resources are scarce, just like we talk about our parents, if your parents tells you the truth, and you are an honest parent and you are a child of a poor man and you believe your parents, even if you are passing and another child is passing and is being driven in a limousine, will you be bothered? No, because you are encouraged and you are proud of your parents. So what is happening in the context of Nigeria is we continue to allow government to abdicate its responsibility and give it to a private owners, private investors like the Dangotes, the other smaller. They don't owe us anything. In organized societies, what government does is this: if you have great companies and you are doing well, just like in the US, if you are Mike Zuckerberg, you are Bill Gates, you are this, what your government does is your government protects you from behind and allows you to go out, explore and make money. That's why you have multinational oil companies in Nigeria. All those companies are being supported by their government and they went international. So for a company like Dangote, I will expect that the government of Nigeria, this is how government helps companies like Dangote and other Dangotes to survive. Dangote produces maybe refined petroleum products and gas and fertilizer. You will help and look at the West African sub-region. Go into a relationship, have rail lines going into those countries, and make sure you are Dangotes who are into petroleum products, who are into fertilizer, who are into pure water. Create rail lines. Let them be supplying those countries. Before you know, we'll have our engineers there, and you will control regional economic power.
Comrade Bala, I see that you are very angry this morning. You are
very passionate. It's calm.
No, but that's who I am.
Just explaining.
At the end of the day, we pray for our leaders. We always pray for our leaders and hope that they succeed. But honestly, in national interest or in family interest, the biggest mistake you will make is not to tell your parents the truth. Okay. That does not mean you don't respect your parents.
The reality on ground is the fact that we have been prodigal over the years, and that is why we are where we are today.
I agree with you 100%.
The war is still on, whether we like it or not. We are also feeling the pinch, the pains and everything. So what are those short-term interventions that you feel government can put in place to at least absorb this shock? Because we don't know when this war is going to end.
Exactly. Honestly, this is one of the best questions I love. Not somebody coming to tell me about catalytic cracking. He begin to talk about economic indices, then begin to talk about ratio analysis. Those people are fake information merchants. In situations like this, whether you accept it or not, let us understand at the back of our minds, I'm trying to answer your question, that Nigeria has a population of more than 200 million citizens. And among these 200 million citizens, you have pepper sellers. You have barbers, you have people who are mini operators, you have POS operators, you have people who will go to formal offices. provide the basics for them. Anywhere you have that money, this is the right time to now technically borrow and make sure these guys can go to work, these guys can carry out their activities, and these guys can go and do well. Right. This is the right time for government to do that. Every country you go at this time, that is why if you have strategic reserves, not only in refined petroleum products, if you have strategic reserves in drugs, if you have strategic reserves in grains, this is the time to lose them. I want to give a practical example with a state in Nigeria, I learned that is Lagos. I wish we have so many Lagoses in Nigeria. You see, it is only in Lagos that we learn that when this thing surges from nowhere, I don't know the miracle and how they do, they will deploy additional buses. Yeah. The reason why you do that thing is because there is a need for you to cushion pains. And cushioning the pains technically means you want to subsidize what is there. When you cushion pains, citizens appreciate you and citizens believe in you. So within this time frame, everybody is suffering. And let me give another practical example. Whether people accept it or not, if you go to a hospital today, if that hospital is supposed to have probably a 200-bed capacity, and that hospital just has 50 patients, do you know that they will run diesel 24 hours? How do you expect that hospital to break even? When you go to maybe a hospitality center like a hotel, do you know that if that hotel is supposed to have 200 guests and they only have 50 guests, in the night they must run a diesel or a petrol generator. Right. For God's sake, how do you expect them to break even? So this is the right time for the government to truly identify with citizens. And even if you are not able to provide all, let us have it. A country as big as Nigeria that is supposed to be the continental hub for Africa, they say you are moving. Right now, there is no drinking water. In fact, let me talk about the worst one. The worst and the worst and the worst of it is this. The beggars that we are having in Nigeria today. Let us tell ourselves the truth. Many of these beggars, if you go out, many of them are between 10 years and 15 years. Let us work the mathematics. So most of the beggars are 10 years to 15 years. So let's assume they are 15 years. Any beggar that is 15 years old now, that means as at 2011, that beggar has not been born. Right. Right? They didn't exist. So how come, if let's assume there are 3 million beggars, how come as at 2010, those 3 million human beings didn't exist? Right. I don't want to call them worthless or urchins, but they didn't exist. So if from that time to now, Nigeria has been flooded with 5 million beggars, that means between that 2010 to now, some people still have that mentality of giving birth to children, throwing on the streets, thinking is blessing. That is how real leaders fix economies. Okay. They will say from particular point like this, chop off. Right. If not, as we are talking in 2026 now, by 2036, there will be another set of beggars. Some of those attitudes must be stopped. We must stop that by fire, by thunder. Okay.
Comrade, before we allow you go this morning, a follow-up to Jibola's question will be, since you've talked about what you expect that we do short term, it's also good to make a projection into the future. Yes. That is why there are leaders. Yes. And of course, we do know that government also succeeds one another. And so if this administration is going to do right by Nigerians, what are the long-term that you'd like to prefer as solutions? Earlier, while you were speaking, you talked about our refineries. Correct. And Ajibola asked you if those refineries were not moribund or if they were not too old to produce. And you said no. Never. Refineries will always be there. At some point in time, we thought one of the refineries was, was jolted. Yes. But we can't say same of that. So if we are to plan for the future as a country, since again we're talking about strategic reserves, what do we need to do to those refineries? Or in the alternatively, how do we as a country also start thinking of modular refineries if we cannot work on the 4 refineries that are moribund at the moment?
That's another thing. One day we'll discuss about this modular refinery. The concept of modular refineries is also a deception. You see, like I keep saying, whether people accept it or not, refining is not as complicated as heart surgery. Any person who tells you that refining is complicated as heart surgery is lying to you. In fact, refining is not as complex as cesarean operation. Because for cesarean operation, if you make a mistake, that child and that mother will die forever and will not come back. If you are carrying out a heart surgery or whatever, you make a mistake, that patient will die and go. In refineries, you are talking about mechanical tools. If this heat exchanger is not working, you can replace it. You cannot replace human lives. All of us did basic chemistry. And anybody who is a science student or who studied science and tells you that refining that you are talking, the technology of refining you are talking about today is more complicated than what we learn in basic chemistry, that person is also lying.
Right.
It's just like when you did basic integrated science, basic biology, basic nursing, and somebody will be talking to you about the complexity of medicine. It's still the same. So one mistake we have made as a country is we always forget that this is a country of more than 200 million citizens. We have also forgotten that we are sitting on less than 10,000 megawatts of electricity generation. That simply means industrialization will be a lie. Anybody who tells us that there will be industrialization, they are lying to us. They will only come and enjoy hospitalities. Those people you think will be investors will not come. If you go to many countries, it is the citizens. If you make the environment comfortable, local investors will be the first person to show that it will work. Then foreign investors will come in. So for Nigeria, it is the duty of government. 2 days ago, I was in a meeting or in a Zoom meeting that has to do with agriculture. This year, many farmers will not farm because of the cost of fertilizer. Our government or our leaders that we are praying for should hear this. Many of them cannot afford the cost of fertilizers. And they've discovered that there are some seeds that are being forwarded to them. I don't want to use the technical name. They discovered that it's going to disrupt agriculture. And our leaders should know that majority of the citizens are in the villages. If you guarantee security, a lot of those youths are willing to stay in their villages. A lot of our senior parents who are retirees want to also go back to the villages and make sure they leave the city centers for the youth. They want to go into agriculture. So if you guarantee that, there will be bumper harvest. But in terms of energy security, anybody that tells our government that the right strategy is to go and be relying on private investors, tell that our government leaders who are ready to hear that Malaysia has state-owned functional refineries, Libya has state-owned functional refineries, Qatar has state-owned functional refineries, Iraq has state-owned functional refineries, Saudi Arabia has state-owned functional refineries.
How old are they?
Many of them, some of them, like in India, you go there and United States, there are refineries that are more than 100 years.
And they've been maintaining.
They are maintaining. But do you know the funny thing? We're discussing, you are energy journalists. After now, I will give you the phone numbers of Nigerians that school in Nigerian polytechnics or universities who are superintendent in some of those foreign refineries. So it is not the question of the knowledge now. The knowledge is the same. The refinery technology we knew before is the same. Just like we say 1 + 1 will continue to be 2. Whether you use ChatGPT, whether you use AI, 1 + 1 will continue to be 2.
Okay.
Whether you use ChatGPT or whatever, if you plant cocoa, you will reap cocoa.
Right.
And another final thing that I will say is this. If we continue that lifestyle of you produce so much cassava, but every time you need gari or tapioca, you will go to somebody who cannot and you buy. You must be an irresponsible farmer. If you produce so much beans and when you need kose or you need beans cake, or you need more, you will now go to somebody who does not produce beans at all, cultivate to buy. You must be an irresponsible farmer.
So we must begin to we must begin to own what is dear to us as a country.
I love that phrase.
Yeah, and so you're
And be
preaching.
honest to ourselves
be
and our
honest to
citizens
ourselves.
and our leaders.
Okay, we'll have to leave this conversation here this morning. Thank you so much, Comrade Bala, Zakka, oil and gas expert and public affairs analyst. It's always a pleasure having you on this platform because we know that you always break it down and speak with passion. Thank you again.
And thank you. But please, I want to let our leaders know that we will continue to pray for them. It was God that gave them those chairs.
We can pray for our leaders, but not for Dangote.
No, we pray for Dangote. Dangote is a corporate citizen.
He's a businessman.
He's a corporate. So long as he pays his taxes and levies to Nigerian government,
definitely.
we will pray for him.
Okay.
But in national interest, if our leaders are not doing the right thing, as their children and citizens, we will tell them the truth.
All right, okay. We would always say the truth, even in the face of, whether they want to hear it or not. Again, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the program this morning.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break. When we return, Adebimpe has a bumper package on her side of the table this morning. Stay tuned.
The views expressed on this program do not represent that of the producer, management of Lagos Television, or the Lagos State Government. They remain the perspectives of those expressing them. Thank you for staying with Lagos Television.